turned over the last pamphlet is that terminating your pregnancy. Put it down. And I was stunned because I thought, well, I know I've got something bad inside of me. I'm not an idiot, but I also think I've got something really good inside of me. Why do I have to get rid of one thing to focus on the other? And I was told this is the common procedure. This is what is expected. Plus, since you're pregnant, also your cancer is estrogen fed, which means all the extra hormones that are running around rampant in your body when you're pregnant was feeding my cancer. And so I was told this is the best course of action. So I called my boss, and I was crying and devastated, and she said, do not panic until we are absolutely certain that that's the only thing we can do. She said, go down and see George Sledge. We've been funding him for years. And our funds, the Vera Bradley Research Funds, have allowed him to go from the lab one day to patients the next, so he's able to go back and forth. He's not just stuck, quote unquote, in the lab or stuck, quote unquote, with patients. He's learned a lot. Just get a second opinion. Insurance will cover it, let's go see. So I think to myself, well, I don't know. When you drive from Chicago to Indianapolis, I'll give you a little visual. It looks like this. Cornfield, soybean, all the way through the state to little Indianapolis. And I pull in, and I meet George Sledge. And this is how I met the man. He's wearing a 1960 wide whale corduroy jacket with a leather patch on it. I knew he had soup that day for lunch because it had spilled on his shirt. And his tie was crooked, and I thought, what can I quack? In IU, the name of the hospital is Indiana University Hospital, is a learning hospital. And what that means is everybody who wants to be a doctor when they grow up gets to come on into every patient meeting, whether you're dressed or not. They look like they're about 12. It's fantastic. So in comes George with his suit and a 12-year-old with a clipboard. And he says, would you mind if this little boy comes in? I'm like, oh, no, he's completely naked. Bring him on. So they look at my chart, and he gets the same serious look on his face, and he says, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to save the baby, and while we're at it, we're going to save you too. You can say it with confidence because that year alone, he's an oncologist, but he had 24 pregnant patients. So the funding that we had been doing allowed him to do things, allowed him to gain knowledge that other people did not have. At that time, it was unheard of. It was groundbreaking for him to be able to practice on pregnant women. So he assured me that it would be no walk in the park. We've made so many advancements in chemotherapy from the time I lost my mom till now. Things that will keep your white blood cell count, in other words, keep you healthier while you're going through chemotherapy. Things that won't make you nauseous, all of these things. I couldn't have any of that. I had to have just straight chemo when I was going through it. And I would have chemotherapy my entire pregnancy. That was the deal. I couldn't have any more surgery and I couldn't have any more radiation, but that was the plan. And so we mapped it all out and we started. Now we were still located temporarily in Illinois, and so that was a good 4-hour drive. And my husband and I decided that instead of me driving myself because it was too far to drive and go back and be in any sort of help, he would bring the kids with, drop me off, and then take the kids to a zoo or a park or museum, something like that. To this day, when I tell people that I have to go see Dr. Sledge for an appointment, my kids go, yeah, let's go, which is good. So my husband drops me off and leaves me, and there I am at the cancer center for my first chemo, and I'm sad and lonely, feeling sorry for myself, waiting for my neon sign telling me more than heard this is happening. And I hear a noise at the elevator, and it's pretty unusual for a cancer center, because it's laughter. And what had happened is, while I was making the 4-hour trek from Joliet, Illinois, here's my little map, Joliet, Illinois down to Indianapolis, my boss and some of my friends from Vera Bradley had driven down from Fort Wayne to sit with me and hold my hand. Literally, hold my hand. And these are women in sales and fashion and marketing. They're not medical professionals, but they did not look away. I couldn't watch the needles go in, but they did. Rub my hands, stroke my hair, and talk to me about shoes and children and clothes, anything to keep me, away from what was going on. And it was wonderful. It stayed with me the entire 8-hour time. And then at the end, when my husband came to pick me up, my boss said, did you bring the big car? And my husband said, listen, we're in a small house. Don't give her any more handbags. We're full. And they said, you've already given her a bag, and that's not the issue. What had happened was, Vera Bradley was very much like a family. It was largely women, and they didn't know what to do. When I was going through this, they didn't know how to help me. But they did for this particular occasion, because they knew that I had children. And they said, what we've been doing since we heard she was sick is that we've all been cooking and freezing it. So you have coolers full of food. So your family will go through this entire thing with great meals. single time I came to get treatment, they would take away the empty coolers and give me full ones, every single time. Never left me alone. And one time, there was a terrible snowstorm up north. Sometimes the snowstorms are pretty bad. And I had been alone in the cancer center for about 2 hours. I thought, well, maybe no one is coming this time. There had been a group of girls from customer service who were coming down. And just so you know, they were all paid as if they were in the office when they were coming down to see me. They didn't have to take vacation or anything. Well, one of the girls, there was a group of them, and they all got sick except one. And she was a single mom of a little baby. And she drove all the way down in that blinding snowstorm. And she said, I can only stay for 20 minutes, but I've got 24 lasagnas in the and I wasn't going to let you think for 1 minute that you were in this by yourself. So she dropped him off, gave me a hug, and headed back up to get the baby from daycare. So there wasn't one period of time when I was alone. And that was amazing to me. And they knew that they had not gotten clean margins when they did the lumpectomy, and because of the estrogen, they were kind of afraid of what was going on inside. So they decided they would take the baby a month early so they could do some more surgery and radiation. And so